Together, Jaquay and Heather make up Lola. Now, this is the first time, I think I'm being truthful, that I've had a duo on.
Oh,
Yep, I have Lizzie Salica, who was here a couple
fantastic.
weeks ago. She's in a bunch of duos, but I have not had a duo jump on. And if I'm right, this is your first time playing in our area anyway, because I haven't seen the name come up on anything.
Yep.
So just a quick background in
our
case you're like,
debut.
why in the world did you bring a duo on? A, why not? And B, I've known Heather for well over 10 years. Super talented, great singer, used to teach. And so when you messaged and said, hey, we're going to be CJ's Italian Kitchen next Thursday at 7 o'clock, first gig up here, like, you need to come on and we need to talk about it or nobody's going to know. I'm thrilled you could join. Now, I know you sing. You don't play an instrument though, correct?
I do.
Oh, you do? So what do you play?
I'm going to be playing guitar.
Okay.
And a little foot tambourine.
Okay.
May even sit down on my drum box. You never know.
Really?
Who
Is your
knows?
drum box a cajon?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm good. Now I'm definitely coming.
Yes.
And now, I saw you had a violin with you. Am I right?
Yes.
She's very experienced playing out.
Yeah. Well, you were saying so before we got on camera. Obviously, I was talking. So you're saying you do a lot of corporate stuff. Yeah. So do you sing also?
Background a little bit, but with this.
No, that makes sense.
Incredible voice.
And so
Don't let her fool you.
is it violin like the whole time? So you're doing violin, you'll do guitar,
Right,
drums,
right.
whatever.
And sing.
I am very excited to see this. So tell me what kind of music you guys are doing, because that's a very interesting mix.
We have quite a collection. So we're doing things from Ellie Goulding to Bush,
Dave Matthews.
Dave Matthews. Yes, my
So
fave stuff.
we're gonna get it all.
Yes.
What Bush song are you guys doing?
Letting the Cable Sleep. And
Really?
we're also covering Alien.
Okay. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've not heard anybody cover Alien.
That's kind of my thought process, is that I'm taking the ones that have really meant something to me and ingesting it and giving it back the way that my spirit feels it. So it's a very interesting take on a lot of your favorites that you may have never heard out.
Now, what I'm curious about is the duo is new, at least to quote the scene.
Yes.
We have a lot of talent on the scene. I mean, you just sat through the band crawl, and I could rattle off 30 acoustic bands. You know, there's a lot. How hard is it to get your duo out? Like, especially even though you're both super experienced, super talented, you know, you still have to go to a venue and say, you've never heard me, you've never seen me, you know, may or may not have a demo. Just book us and see what happens. How hard was it to get a gig?
It was actually by happenstance. The gig had originally belonged to somebody else, and they ended up not being able to do it.
Yeah, okay.
And booked me with it. And I said, Jaquay, this might be our chance. Let's try it. Do you have the date open? And she says, I do. And it just fell into place. It was meant to be.
Now, they booked you once they knew you had the duo, or did they booked you
It
anyway?
was already booked through Susie Maka for
Yep.
Taste. She was doing it, and I said, I got my girl. Let's go through it. Otherwise, it was going to go to somebody else, and it just felt right.
Yeah.
Everything about it felt perfect.
Now,
So-
you two both being as experienced as you are, did you have to like sit down and come up with songs and rehearse a bunch of stuff, or are you at the point where?
Luckily, I am so OCD about my own personal set listing. I already had it kind of figured out for the most part, and we went through things together and felt it out together. Some things got tossed, other things got added that we never thought. So,
And that's got to be
Really cool.
harder for you, right? Because it's one thing to say to a guitar player or a singer or
She's a
whatever,
pro.
you know, hey, we're doing Dave Matthews Band, or probably harder in your case.
that was one of
Bush.
the lucky things,
Yeah.
though, because she
Yeah.
already loved so
Dave
much of the
Matthews,
stuff
yeah,
that I
yeah.
already had. She's like, all right, cool,
That's
let's
not
do
much
it.
here in
Like
Tampa.
literally anything I throw at her, she's like, yep, let's do it. Yep, let's do it. I'm like, I love you. You're amazing.
So on the heavier side, right? So I know it's more 90s, but you have Bush. What else do you have on the, like, give me some song examples here that kind of show the width.
The range.
Yeah.
So we actually just did Across the Universe recently for our rehearsal, and that was really cool. Ellie Goulding, Love Me Like You Do. It's a very neat take on it. We're doing some Say Something.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of
Michael
interesting. Michael Jackson. We're doing Human Nature.
Really?
Pretty Reckless. You. We have some Tim McGraw in there. We're throwing in a couple country things, but
Wow.
it's a range.
Yeah,
It's a big
And
range.
we talked about doing. I love Fleetwood Mac, so I was like, I like doing this instrumental cover of Dreams, and so
Yeah.
so just doing solo violin on that, with, guitar with the chords, and so I'm thrilled about that too. So just a little bit of
everything.
Yeah, and our own.
That is
little
awesome.
Really neat.
Edge on
I'm
it.
excited to see this now.
Yeah.
I know you had your violin here earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Do you play like an electric violin, a normal acoustic violin, a
Yeah,
little bit of
yeah.
both?
So I have both, but I prefer the acoustic sound of it. I honestly, in all full transparency, I just pull the electric out whenever the agent asks for it. But for my own brand, I prefer the acoustic violin.
And so you're playing obviously with other groups. You anybody we would know? Anybody around town?
So I'm actually playing at 3 Guys Brewing on Friday. So I saw you photo on the bar
Are you
crawl.
playing with Groove Slayers?
No, actually, I'm just playing on my own on Friday.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
so
solo.
you do your own solo as well. Okay.
It's only been my second time playing them though, so it hasn't been a lot with them. But they're a great venue. And then more agents. So I have one on the West Coast. I play at the Hard Rock Casino there in Tampa.
Yeah.
Solo there as well. Of course, tons of weddings. Whenever she's she
yes.
texts me, she's what are you doing? Like, play for a wedding, play
Yep.
for a wedding, play for a wedding. But so I do. It's a mix of private events. Whether it's weddings, I've done graduations, even funerals, and so that side of just more like public gigs where I get to be like just stuck on myself.
Yeah.
And perform with other singer-songwriters as well. I perform with Melissa Crispo for
Regina too.
yeah, Regina Sales from Pennsylvania. So yeah, just a mix really. And so
That
but it's
is
been
very
nice
cool.
to I'll be honest, I was more doing like duos and more ensemble gigs, and then with the pandemic when it did, it kind of forced me to get on my own because I really didn't want to be honest. I probably would have just like slid under the radar, just been
Stood in the back and done your
yeah,
thing?
exactly. And then when everyone they're like, hey, we can't afford you because we can't even get hired right now because of the pandemic. It's like, well, gotta make some money, Jaquay. So kind of forced me to get out of my comfort shell, and and now it's slowly happening here and there. But I do I play primarily for my private gigs or private events. They're mainly solo, so I like to be able to not be alone on stage and perform,
Sure.
especially with vocalists and like violin and guitar. Like just love it.
That is awesome. I also asked because our keyboard player, Carol, I hope I get the name
Oh
right.
yes, I know Carol.
She plays in Viola Electric?
Violectric. That's where I met her.
Okay. Oh, so have you played with them? So Carol is our keyboard player, Midnight Mayhem.
Oh, fantastic.
And she has that corporate band, and every now and then they when they play.
Nice.
So that's why when you said violin, I'm like, I'm curious if you two have
I
crossed
played
paths.
with Violectric for about 2 years.
I'm the drummer she was complaining about when you guys met.
That's funny.
That was me.
That's funny.
That's awesome, and I'm thrilled to see this is going to be like a totally different thing. It's not the typical,
Yeah.
And
guitar.
that's the plan. It's raw. It's real. We don't use any software to mix.
Oh, there's no tracks. There's no nothing.
Nope. It is raw, real
Yep.
from the ground up. It's bare bones, and that's to me what makes the whole thing unique.
Exactly.
And it's what to me it makes it real and tangible and approachable, and it's just super
It's organic.
raw. Yes, that's the word. Organic.
And that's very cool. So when you say you don't use any software like that, you're running through a mixer, right? Just so that we can, or is it just the
So
vocals
I
that are
have
coming
an
through?
L1 Bose,
Yep.
and we're just running it straight through, and little bit of reverb.
Yeah, just so it doesn't
Just
sound
what's
too
yeah.
squeaky.
Yeah.
Just smooth out that treble
Wow.
a little bit,
Yeah.
but that's about it.
So we're putting it out there. We're hanging our laundry out on the line.
All right, and hopefully this is now. If this goes well for you guys, which I'm sure it will, and I'll be there to see it anyway. Are you guys going to do more of this? Is
We
this
would
like the
love
thing
to.
now? There's going to
Yeah,
be more.
We would love to.
Yeah, there's so many venues that have acoustic now, which is
Mhm.
awesome.
Mhm.
When 3-4 years ago it seemed like acoustic was well, we couldn't get a band,
Right.
and now that's not true at all.
Right.
It's become a bigger and bigger thing.
Yep.
So, being new, right? Not individually, but to this, what's the PR plan? How are you going to get the word out?
We're going to develop it as we go. I think we're pretty resourceful, and we already know a lot of the people and places, and it's just we're going to find our niche. We're going to find where we belong, and we're just going to let it happen organically as we are. So
This is
yeah,
really,
there's
really cool.
no pressure, and I always told her this. I was like, no pressure, girl. Wherever we can get it, we can get it.
Yep.
So it is what it is, and we're just.
But it is nice though, just from like, I mean, residing in this area for so long, you just end up like knowing Carol. I performed with her on stage plenty of times, you know, for the last, that was about 2 years ago. Before I was with the band for 2 years, so I think it's just more of that networking. And even though I'm more on the private corporate side for the most of my work, it's like still having those relationships built in different arenas within music. So like for instance, when I'm there at Guys Rearing on Friday, I'm gonna mention our duo, and then you know they're always looking for new talent. So I think just having those current relationships and just like getting that credibility that you already have built from performing there, and then just being like, hey, I have this idea as well. Let's see. Let's go with it. You know, it's kind of what you said before. How like if they're performing here, they're most likely good, right? So
That's how I met her too. It was at a pool party.
Really?
Private pool party, and that first note that she struck, I knew it in my bones.
Oh, so you played the pool party?
Yes.
Oh, so you play everything. You play everywhere.
Yeah, they hired
everywhere.
2 independent. They had a steel drum player, Ravon, amazing, and then her, and they both showed up. And what do you know? What do you know? And let's do it. And I'm just like.
We hadn't rehearsed. We just was like.
It was incredible.
Let's just try it out. Let's see how it goes. So it worked out pretty well.
See, I'm always very impressed when, and a lot of the local musicians around here are good enough to do that. That they're like, hey, meet me here on Thursday night. Like I saw More Than Venus play Dexter's Lake Mary probably about a year ago.
Okay.
And if I'm wrong, Kitty, if I'm wrong, sorry. It looked like they were just calling it out. The crowd would dance to a song, and they'd get done, and she'd turn to the band and be like, do you know this? Let's play that.
Exactly.
Like off they go. There was no rehearsal. You know, everyone was just talented enough to kind of jump in and get it done, which I'd imagine isn't any more difficult on a violin than it would be on a guitar. You either know the song or you don't know the song.
Except for when I'm like, hey, it's in G sharp minor. Can you do that?
Yeah, and I'm like,
she's like, sure.
That's her swing in our band. Like we're playing this song. Okay, it's a half step down.
Okay.
Okay.
You figure it out though. I'll be honest, like before Electric, when I met Carol, I was strictly classically trained. I played for about 26 years, and I had to have sheet music, and even with that, it was like the Tchaikovskys, Mozarts, Dvorak's, like it wasn't
everything you would have played on a violin. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. And so starting with Electric, I had no idea what I was doing. I'm like, improv, what? You know, and I knew these songs. You know, we're doing covers, instrumental covers of very well-known songs, and so it just took a few times just being like. Put it out on stage. It's just like because you can't. I mean, we had 6 hours of music in a book, so it's like you can't learn every single song down to a T. So it's just there's gonna be some point where you're just gonna rely on your on your senses, whether it's like hearing and then even sometimes visually too, just like watching the vibe of your bandmates and whatnot. But after a couple of years with them, I can jump in pretty well.
And are you using sheet music and a music stand or any of that now, or no? That's gone.
No, it's just my set list that I have.
Sure, and how about you? Do you have to use the iPad or a
I am, yes, absolutely. My memory is not what it used to be. Even though these are the ones that I know and love, I get really engrossed in the music, and sometimes I drift away.
So, not taking a side per se, but what's your thought on that never-ending debate, right? You always hear people say, the singer or the guitar player or the whoever shouldn't have the iPad because they're reading it and they're not looking at you, they're not whatever, but then I know plenty of musicians, he may not even be doing it anymore. Rafa from The Rundown has an iPad on his stand. It doesn't detract from his show. Dave Mander, the guitar player in our band, he doesn't use it for lyrics that often, but he uses an iPad for everything. He has his set list, he has chords, he has, whatever on there. There's that, the 2 biggest debates you hear are tracks, right? And having an iPad or a music stand or whatever on stage. Particularly for the singer. So is that something that you think, well, as you play more, is that something you think goes away, or is it like, no, that's no more different than having a guitar?
No more different. I think technology is there, the tools are there, use them if that's your thing, and if it's not your thing, totally cool too. If tracks are your thing, use them. Your show is your show, it's your signature, whatever goes, goes. And I think that is where you can give your audience what they deserve. They took their time out to come to your show. They saved their money to buy that dinner and tip that, waitress.
Sure.
They're cutting out their time. You want to give them the best show you can. And if it means you have a track, do it. If it means you've got a tablet, do it.
Now tell me I don't sing at all, not a note. Do you have to put conscientious effort into, I'm going to look at you, I'm going to look at the crowd, I'm going to look out, or like it's just a natural thing for you and you do
No,
what you
that's
do and
actually
that's it?
something that I do have to remind myself about. Like I said, if it is a set list where the songs really mean something to me, I will drift away. I'll roll my eyes in the back of my head, I'll close my eyes, and I am fully engrossed in the music. And I do have to remind myself, look up, make eye contact, but that's just me. That's who I am as, you know, a performer. I'm trying to respect the music 100%. So when I can connect, it's always a bonus.
Because I would expect, especially because this is something different, that you're going to have more eyes on you than normal.
Absolutely.
You know, if I go see, there's some fantastic acoustic, right? I mean, I named off, you know, the Acoustic Inferno,
Yeah.
there's Duality, there's Shenanigans. I mean, there's just a bunch. They're all awesome, but once they start a song and you know what it is, you kind of look back and forth a little bit, and because it sounds great, but you know, there's nothing, I'm saying this the wrong way so nobody shoot me, there's nothing different about that, right? They're going to put on a great show, it's going to be a lot of fun, but I can look away
Yep.
because I know what's going on over here.
Yep.
That isn't going to be the case because
Especially
you're
at
on
the
violin,
beginning, yeah.
which is like going to be a newer thing for people, and I think there's going to be a lot of, I wonder what they're going to do with this. I wonder how they're going to pull, oh, they just started this song. All right.
It's going to be interesting.
You know, what are we doing? You
Yeah.
know, so I feel like eyes are going to be on you guys
They are.
a lot more, and you're going to have more opportunity to win over your crowd, right?
I
'Cause-
think you're 100% correct on that. I mean, there's times it's so odd. I'll walk into a venue, haven't played, the instrument is still in the case, and they'll be like, "You're playing violin? This is gonna be great." I'm like, "You haven't even heard me yet."
That could be awful.
Yeah,
Right.
right, exactly. But it is just all eyes are on you, and I think, yeah, like you said, it's a very unique duo and dynamic, and so I think, which I'm grateful for. You know, we have that that natural attention and engagement is going to already be there. But yeah, I think we have that right balance of, like, you know, using the resources to our benefits and to only embellish the show, not to take over the show,
Right.
perhaps. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes because I think we have that right balance of what people want to see, where it's organic, it's natural. The arrangements are, like, I'm thinking about, like, some of our Michael Jackson covers, like Human Nature. Like, it sounds like Human Nature, but it really isn't, though. And it's just like it's
you're going to make it your own.
Yeah,
You almost have to make it your own because your two options are either play the melody line on the violin and carry the lyrics, right? Or make it your own.
exactly.
Especially when you're singing and playing guitar,
Right.
like there's already a melody line.
Yep.
So you've got to find some kind of unique.
That's funny you bring that
Filler.
up, actually, because I was just thinking about that, because some of the parts that I'm playing, it won't just be like, you know, the synth strings in the background. It's gonna be, I'm echoing her vocals sometimes, you know. So
Right.
it's like, yeah, it's a very nice balance, and I think it's just something just that hasn't been heard in a while, probably.
Yep.
And so
That is very. Are you going to take some video at CJ's? Are you gonna take some-
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'd
Yep.
love to. We'd love
We
to
have,
see.
we're going to have the lovely Anna Espinoza.
Oh yeah, is she going to video for you?
Yes, she is, and snapshots, and we're going to have,
That's awesome.
A lot of-
she has an idea for the stage itself.
oh yeah. We have a very cool thought process behind the character concept of the name, even Lola. It's
So
actually,
this isn't your normal clothes.
no,
Oh, I figured. Just
Wednesdays.
Just Wednesday.
Just Wednesdays. No, the thought process behind the character concept is actually Lola Montez.
From Volby.
Technically, yes, and that's the modern approach to the character concept of a real person in history. Thank God for Google. You can look it up and see there was actually a 1950s film made on Lola Montez as well. She was a real person in history, and a lot of her character kind of echoes in the recesses of my mind in terms of who I am as a performer and an entertainer. Kind of under the cuff, not, you know, really in your face kind of thing. Growing up performing, I always had crippling stage fright to the point,
Really?
oh, I still have it.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
So it's something that really reverberated with me, where she had to kind of be coached into learning how to perform and really owning it as a performer and entertainer herself. But it was this very romantic kind of approach. Also, I would say sort of sexual, but not in an untasteful manner or distasteful
Sure,
manner.
understood.
And I think that is a lot of the playfulness of, in my opinion, female entertainers who aren't up and jumping around and, you know, really working the crowd. You have to kind of find it in almost like a mental sense, you know, and in an emotional plea through the microphone, through your eye contact, through how you move and what you
Which
do.
is why I was asking about the iPad. Like, you know, because you've got that second element,
Yes,
right? And your suit chained is the wrong word, but you also need this.
correct.
You know, this is no different than your sheet music or your whatever.
Absolutely.
You know, now, pure curiosity on my part, because I didn't even know Lola Montez was a real person.
Yeah.
Is the other song Lola about the same Lola? Is that Lola? I think it's the Kinks that have the acoustic song.
I'm actually not sure.
You know what I'm talking about, right? I'm not going to sing it for you at all, but there's an acoustic song that from like early 70s, it might even be early 80s. I think it's the Kinks that
I'll
have
have
an
to check
acoustic
it out.
song called Lola, and it just talks about Lola the whole time. I'm
Interesting.
curious if it's the same person,
Interesting.
and if you would know. And
Nope.
if you would know, well, then now you're gonna have to look it up.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like we have to tell them before we use that CJ's next weekend.
That's right. You're gonna have to look
Yes.
it up, and then I'll tell everybody next week. Yes, it is, or no, it isn't. It's very cool that you put all that thought into the name. That there's actually a concept, for lack of a better term, because a lot of us, we just pick a name.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. When we started Midnight Mayhem, which is on year 8, I want to say. When we started it, we were struggling with all kinds of names. I put this one out. You know, there's 7, 8 minds involved, and my wife was at a video game store, and called me and was like, "What about Midnight Mayhem?"
Sold.
Sold. Let's do that. Let's do
love
that.
it.
So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Now, because you do the corporate, curious about this. One of the things I've seen the corporate agencies doing now is saying, if you play outside of our agency, we want you to have another name when you play in our agency, so that they can't book you directly without you knowing. For example, one of our agencies said, you know, we need a new name because they may go to us, see you, look you up on Facebook or whatever, hire you, and you would never even know that they talked to the agency, which is how they make their money.
Right.
Have they come back to you at all? Is that not as big a thing yet? Have you had that?
I think maybe with as an instrumentalist, no. I would think it hasn't come up yet. No.
Maybe as
but-
a soloist when you're out there on your own.
Right. If I'm like, releasing music, to your point, yeah. But that's a good thing to keep in the back of my
consider.
head, though. Yeah, exactly. But not yet. No.
We've seen that more and more with the agencies where they're like, you need a name that isn't Midnight Mayhem. You need a promo video unbranded that you can just give us, and we'll put you in our folio. And I get it, because they could easily see you, see you through an agency portfolio or the duo through a portfolio, find you online. You'd never know that they did that and went around the agency.
Right.
And that's how they make their money. It's a I was just curious. I really like that you have all that thought put into the backstory of that. And now I'm very curious to see how you relay all this through.
Once
You
you,
know what I mean?
see the full set list, everything
Yeah.
will kind of make sense. If you put a little thought into it, you can see the flow chart of
Yeah.
my thought in there. So
That's
yeah.
very cool. And for those of you who haven't been to CJ's Italian Kitchen, it's right over here in Longwood,
We
off of
went
434.
and saw Craig and Lynn's.
I was
over
gonna
there.
go. It's. So last week I had COVID, so I couldn't go.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to figure out, like on a Thursday night, to get out. And now that there's so many good acoustic bands, you want to see them all.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? There's like 8 of the good bands are playing, and you're like, and it's a Thursday.
Yep.
So in I don't know if everybody else goes through this. There are plenty of Thursdays I own a marketing company during the day. Thursday night, I'm like, I'm just glad I'm alive.
Yeah.
I'm just glad we made it.
Yeah.
Friday is one more day away.
Right.
So
right.
very cool venue. Homemade food.
Yes.
All homemade food.
Fantastic.
From scratch every single
Had
time.
their Caesar, had their fettuccine Alfredo, and I was fat and happy walking out.
We
there.
we went and saw More Than Venus there as a duo. I went with Dave Mander and my wife. First time I'd been there. Also a very cool vibe for what you're doing. It has that eclectic,
Yep.
old fashioned,
Yep.
down home traditional feel to the venue. And so I think that's really going to fit well.
It does.
You know
Any
what I mean?
warm wood, that's
Yeah, which is how the whole place is.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, I'm very much looking forward to seeing it. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
you guys are looking forward to seeing it. I want to see some photos. I want to see some video.
This is the beginning.
Yes, because I want to cover that. I at least want to put it on the post. For those of you who haven't seen, and I'm sure you have, we made the band crawl its own page now.
Yes.
So Facebook, I hate algorithms, because I was tagging the bands that were in the show, Facebook thought I was spamming. Because I would say, here's the weekly band crawl, here's the link, and then, Papa Wheelie, Crash Rocket, this band, that band, you, and I'd list them. And it was like, nope, you're spamming.
Yeah.
And I use my social media account for more than the weekly band crawl.
Right.
And so I set it up its own page so that Facebook would not give it a hard time. So if
Good
you have
deal.
not liked the page, definitely go like it, because after a while, I'm going to stop putting it on
Right.
my personal. I'm doing that now. I'm
Right.
posting it to the one and I'm sharing it across. But ultimately, that won't happen.
Yeah.
And so I think we're sitting at like 700 something people, and we only opened it earlier in the week,
Nice.
last week or
Nice.
whatever. But definitely, we get about 4,000 views a show. So I, go on there, like it if you haven't. I'm very
Yes.
excited to see this come together. I appreciate you taking the time
We appreciate you
thank you.
having us on.
to slip away and do it.
Thank
This
you.
is awesome.
Thank
Go check these guys out. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Bye.